Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to continue on discussing different comp matchups, and we're going to do the big one today. We're going to do Warrior Shaman versus Rogue Mage. So Warrior Shaman versus Rogue Mage is quite unique as a comp matchup just because how much of an advantage the Rogue Mage does have. It's very unusual when having two comps that are accepted as being both pretty viable to have such a large advantage for one, and in this case it's the Rogue Mage. And we're going to start with my recommendation for the best spec you can have on the Shaman. So here it is in front of us as always. This one, as you can probably guess straight away, is a toughness spec. We've got the 20 in enhancement. And the second thing that's important to the matchup for Rogue Mage is that we have Guardian Totems. So Guardian Totems is generally taken in all specs, but I just wanted to highlight it because it is important to the playstyle that we're going to be adopting as the Shaman, and the reason it's important is because it reduces the cooldown on grounding, and grounding is arguably one of the biggest factors that's going to allow you to edge out the win. Next, we obviously have toughness. I'm not going to go into toughness, but we know it's awesome. I'm going to put the tooltip as always. If you want to, explore it, you can go back at some previous other videos. I've discussed it a little bit more. And next, we're going to jump into the Resto tree, 41 in Resto, and unlike the previous specs we were discussing when we were looking at Warrior Shaman versus Warrior Druid, we are not taking any of the Healing Wave talents. So there's no improved healing wave and there's no healing wave. The reason being, it's bloody hard to get even 1.5 second cast versus a rogue mage. Getting 2.5 second casts off is just not feasible, so we skip those talents entirely. The next thing that's important within this tree that we get is getting Healing Grace. So what this does that's significant is it gives us a 30% chance to resist Dispel, or in this case it's to resist Spellsteal. This means that hopefully we can keep Earth Shield up on ourselves for as long as possible, because unless you have Earth Shield you don't have the 100% pushback. We get 70 from talents and then we get 30 from the Earth Shield, so collectively we get 100. However, if the mage gets a very quick spell steal and just takes the Earth Shield straight away, we're then going to find ourselves already in a bad situation, getting pressured, and we're then trying to cast when we don't even have 100% pushback resistance, just making it an even bigger nightmare. And then finally as well, Bloodlust is a bit of a tricky thing to use correctly versus Rogue Mage, because Spell Steal is obviously fantastic if the mage can get it, but again, the spell resist is going to assist. If we do choose to use Bloodlust, you might keep it that little bit longer. And then finally, the final thing we're going to note is that we have 3 of 5 Tidal Mastery. So Tidal Mastery is just a standard flat crit. It's going to give crit to our heals, and it's going to give crit to our nature spells. Why is this significant? Well, because you want to have as much burst potential as possible when fighting Rogue Mage. You're going to have very small windows in time when you can cast, just because of the nature of lockdown, so you want to be able to try and get the crits off, and crit will win the game. If you crit on your NS and compared to when you don't, that's a very tangible difference, and that may actually win you the games. So now we've done the spec, we're going to jump into your Totem Matrix. So these are basically my recommendations for the totems that you want to be having placed when you're playing, and we'll also quickly go through the order of placing your totems. One caveat before we go forward is to say you want to be in Ghost Wolf as much as possible to begin with. You never want to exit Ghost Wolf until you can get in combat, because you do not want to get sapped. If you get sapped, 9 times out of 10 you've just lost the game there and then. So the reason I'm saying this is because that means you don't have necessarily all the time in the world to think about placing your totems, and you might not even get all of the totems off you want. I would generally, if you're feeling nervous, place 2 totems before you shift into Ghost Wolf. If you're feeling a little bit spicy, go for 3 totems, but then shift to Ghost Wolf. Don't be greedy and go for 4 straight away. That having been said, let's start with Earth Totems. So generally I would just recommend using Stoneskin Totem. It's not fantastic, but every little helps, especially with the rogue damage. And then later on, if you're feeling a little bit more comfortable, if you feel you've got the damage under control, you can swap from the Stoneskin to the Strength of Earth. Fire Totems, is Frost Resistance Totem. This is the most important totem you're going to place. It gives you the chance to obviously resist Frost Bolts, resist Frost Nova, and these are massive, massive advantages if you can afford to get them off. So as a result, I would say Frost Resistance Totem is the first totem you want to place when you're moving into position or you've got into position. The second totem you want to be placing is your water totem, and this is your poison cleansing. Despite the fact that you kind of think maybe I do want the healing from Healing Stream, you need to keep the poisons off of yourself as much as possible. And then finally we're going to look at the air totems, and as always this is fairly obvious if you're playing Shaman Warrior, but it's going to be firstly Wind Fury, and then secondly we're going to be looking at controlling grounding. When I say controlling grounding, I mean it's important versus a mage not to just willy-nilly throw your grounding down. The reason being that the mage is going to have his pet up, and the pet's auto attacks, or equivalent to what auto attacks are for the pet, actually counter spells and they will take your grounding. So you need to time your grounding to place it maybe half a second or even less before the cast finishes from the mage to make sure that you're getting the actual mage's cast hitting your grounding and not just some random spell from a pet that the mage isn't even thinking about. So that said, we're just going to jump straight into the footage. With that in mind, these are my top 3 things that you want to focus on, both when you're viewing other people's performances, if you want to sort of assess what they may be doing right and what they're doing wrong. I'd say look at these 3 points, and then also for yourself, just aim to these as to be goals and areas to improve upon when you're, focusing on the Rogue Mage matchup. So number 1 is the most obvious one, but I'm going to say it and it needs to be said, and that's positioning. It goes without saying, but positioning is important in WoW Arena. I know, crazy. However, versus Rogue Mage, it takes on a whole new level of significance, and as a result, you will notice that whenever I play, my positioning always seems to sort of be around about the same positions. These are positions that I've decided are effective for me to play in, or for me and my team to play in, and we will always find ourselves in those positions, even if they seem sort of slightly unnatural when you're first getting used to them. So if you want to improve, my advice is to watch the footage carefully and pay particular attention to where I stand and where I move to. So number 2, I've mentioned it briefly, but we're going to go back to it, and that's the grounding totem. At first, grounding totem seems like a pretty simple spell. You drop it and then it takes 1 spell. However, the skill ceiling on grounding totem is exponentially greater than the majority of totems you're going to use. And I think every shaman, no matter how good they are, can always improve on how they use it. A key aspect, but one that's commonly overlooked, is the grounding totem's ability to work through walls. In the footage you're watching now, you'll see I quite often position myself behind a pillar. Then, in order to protect my warrior, I'll place a grounding totem. This will apply the defensive buff through the pillar to the warrior. This means that he is then protected from casts, and I have not had to expose myself by going into line of sight to shock or to heal the warrior. Number 3, finally, fake casting. Now, I'm not perfect, and there are times during these games that I get interrupted. However, there's a lot of times when I do manage to get my fakes off, and I do avoid the Rogue Mage's interrupts. Learning to fake cast well, it's a skill that's useful in all matchups, but versus Rogue Mage, where the pressure is high and a single mistake means life or death, it's a complete necessity. I've discussed fake casting in detail before, and there's a video for it. I'll have a click through it now, but to extend upon what I've said in that video, versus Rogue Mage in particular, you need to remember that rogues have more than one way of directly interrupting you. The most common being that if they miss their kick, they will then attempt to gouge you. This is important because gouge requires you to be facing the rogue. As a result, you will often see me spinning as I'm trying to cast, making it harder for the rogue to line up with me face to face and therefore get the gouge off. So that's been my top 3. There are so many little things you can do as a Sham to try and edge out a win, and often it will just come down to practice. That said, I hope you enjoy the rest of this footage. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic you'd like to see me discuss, the comment section is the place to go. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, or give me a follow and a sub on Twitch. I stream there most days. Thanks for watching, guys.
I'm headed to the bottom of the bottle. I've been drowning, I've been floating away. dollar that I got in bed, I probably went and pissed it away. I ain't fucking okay, I ain't liking it, babe. I don't even wanna talk, I'm just smoking my haze. I've been stuck in my ways, I've been stuck in for days. I've been staring at the clock as the radio plays. I'm enslaved. Yeah. Rolling another, I'm stuck in my seat for the whole control of my speech. Yeah, I've been trying to get off this couch for a minute and a whole damn week. No kidding, I'm skinny, I cannot eat. Got a million motherfuckers that depend on me. Yeah, every friend in my family. From a girl, every fan I meet myself. I'm too on till I'm too off. Come down to make new thoughts, like jumping off of that rooftop. Oh my devil, when I do nothing to make moves based on my mood drops. Like who's lost? Like who's lost? It's yo, steadily killing me, running my brain full of shame. I don't wanna lose it. Full of stage, trying to find my pain. See the sun coming out of that rain. My day really not tame. I'ma never slow down. I'ma never behave. Stuck inside this prison, inside this cage, it's taking over. Yeah, I'm a slave for you. Slave for you. Ripping harder, more less. Never stop, no rest. Till the stress is breath in my chest. Till it's diamonds wrapping my neck. Progress to a god from a goddamn mess. Hopeless, more tests. More blessed. Dug deep down trying to find my best. Find a beast, had to kill a conquest. I'm next. I'm too on till I'm too off. Come down to make new thoughts. Like jumping off of that rooftop. Oh my devil, when I do nothing to make moves based on my mood drops. Like who's lost? Like who's lost? It's yo, steadily killing me, running my brain full of shame. I don't wanna lose it. Full of stage, trying to find my pain. See the sun coming out of that rain. My day really not tame. I'ma never slow down. I'ma never behave. Stuck inside this prison, inside this cage, it's taking over. Yeah, I'm a slave for you. Drop it low, get your body to the flow. We can do it how you wanna, any way you wanna roll. We can take it to the left, shorty, we can take it slow. I'ma pull up for the night, you can tell me where to go. Told her drop it low, get your body to the flow. We can do it how you wanna, any way you wanna roll. We can take it to the left, shorty, we can take it slow. I'ma pull up for the night, you can tell me where to go. Gotta sing it like now she caught me with my mask off. I'ma pop another blast off. Crazy little body, she my mascot. When she move that body, she get mad high. Pushing all up on me, knowing I'll be with the glitz. You know I'm as real as it'll get. Call me on my bullets, make a bet from the moment that we met. Yeah, I've been trying to hit it, get it wet. Take a little something to forget. Gotta sing it like ball and my girls wildin'. good timing. Heard her gets busy and she love rhyming. It's not about the road, it's who you with. Your word around the city, we the shit, see you fit. Got them thick thighs, got me hypnotized. Shorty with the crew, trying to get in all the pictures. She know what to do, you back it up and let me see what it bout. I got a pocket full of money and a handful of clout. She like I told her drop it low, get your body to the flow. We can do it how you wanna, any way you wanna roll. We can take it to the left, shorty, we can take it slow. I'ma pull up for the night, you can tell me when to go. Told her drop it low, get your body to the flow. We can do it how you wanna, any way you wanna roll. We can take it to the left, shorty, we can take it slow. I'ma pull up for the night, you can tell me when to go. Gotta sing it like
on my wrist, baby, make a wish. You could sell your Rari, but you can't afford my outfit. Versace on my wrist, baby, make a wish. You could sell your Rari, but you can't afford my outfit. Versace on my wrist, baby, make a wish. You could sell your Rari, but you can't afford my outfit. Versace on my wrist, baby, make a wish. You could sell your Rari, but you can't afford my outfit. Go wish. Go wish. Go wish. Go wish.
Like the smoke in my lungs, you got me feeling so numb. Oh, all I felt was you. I was out of my mind, you were killing me inside. Yeah, I know the truth. I know it's that I think of you, I'm losing sleep. I don't know what it is you do. The moment that you walked into my life, I started to fall head to toe for you.